fellow traders, 'tis I, the Rumpled One, coming to you on Wednesday, August the 20th, the year's 2025. Let's talk trading on what to focus. These videos are for educational purposes only. Your results may differ from mine. As always, have risk management in place so you don't lose more than you're willing to lose on any one single trade or during any one single trading session. On what to focus? Well, I talked about eliminating distractions. That's, you know, that's taking care of the negative side. But the positive side, on what to focus? Well, what I usually tell people is focus on yourself, focus on your portfolio, your method, your plan, etc. Because a lot of times people will be distracted by what others are doing or saying. And so that's what you need to focus on. And I know it sounds simple because most of the stuff that I discuss in these videos is simple. Really is simple. I didn't say it's easy, but it's simple. But people have a tendency to not do what's simple, to avoid the simple, to complicate matters, make things more complex than necessary. And that you can see that in trading. So, a lot of advice says don't focus on the money. But the thing is, that's what trading's all about. It's all about the money. Because if you don't make money, if you lose money, you're not going to be trading for long. So you have to pay attention to it. What they might mean is, every tick, living and dying by every tick, every point, every penny. That's probably not good to focus on because that can just drive you nuts. But if you have an overall goal for a session, which isn't bad, say you might want to make 10 pips or 20 or 50 pips a session, then that's what you focus on. And you don't get there usually in one trade, especially if you're going for 10 or more pips. It might take you 2, 3, or more trades to get there, but you get there by focusing on each trade, having your risk management in place, taking your signals when they appear, and executing. I mean, that's pretty much what it is. So, what do you focus on? Do you focus on, candle color? Do you focus on moving averages? Do you squigglies? Do you focus on horizontal lines? So you can focus on, just a couple of things. Usually I like to keep things simple, 3 or less. So for example, on this chart, we have flip-flop boxes. We've got indicator 2, and we've got a turn trade indicator where you can see here that was a flip-flop, but flip-flops are also turn trades. So you can see here they get marked. And then I'm looking at the different candle colors. So you can see here from H1 on down, well, it was green, now it's red again. Then I look at the distance prices from indicator 2 or the EMA 5. And part of focusing is saying no to, the 5, 10, 20, 100,000 million other things that are out there and saying, no, this is what I'm focused on. This is what I'm doing. It doesn't matter what everybody else is doing. My focus is solely on me, my portfolio, my trade, what I'm trading. It's funny because some of my friends know, or most of my friends know that I trade. And one friend was talking to me about, oh, well, I trade on Robinhood, and I'm thinking about getting into this. And it's like, okay, but it's like, does it affect me? No. I did have one friend tell me about a crypto, and in fact, I believe he's one of the ones that told me about Bitcoin. So I'm thinking, okay, I'll buy $1,000 lottery ticket on this particular cryptocurrency, and it's like, if it makes me 10 or 50 or 100,000, great. If not, it's a lottery ticket. And that's how I treat the crypto. I actually looked at my crypto, and like in Bitcoin, I'm up a couple 100%. In Ethereum, I'm up, I think, a couple 100%. And then in the Cardano ADA, I'm up like three or 400, maybe even almost 500%. But it's like I'm thinking lotto tickets where I'm up maybe 1,000% or something, where 10 times the money or 20 times the money. And the thing is, some people are looking for LCEs, and those are what's called life changing events. So, and I'm not necessarily looking for that, because it's like, hey, I'm halfway through almost halfway through the fourth quarter of life. And so it's like, um, it's not going to be, you know, a real life changing event. I mean, even if I were to win like a lotto and get, I don't know, say 50 million, after taxes, I got 50 million, what would change? Oh, I'd probably, do a few things around the ranch. As far as vehicles, um, I'd probably outfit my Miata race car. Either that, or I would buy a new, you know, ready to race Miata and take it to the track. But I'm not going to buy any Ferraris for the street. I don't think. Even though I might go over to visit Kreslik in Monaco and see if they still have Ferraris at the Ferrari dealer out front with bird crap on it. I say, I want to buy that Ferrari, but do not wash it. We joke about that. Anyway, back to the point. Um, you know, what do you focus on when you're trading? So, and I was saying, do you have a goal? I mean, your goal to trade for trading might be for it to change your life. In other words, you make enough money, or you're making enough money that you don't have to go to work, or you get out of debt, or you get enough money where you can take that trip that you want. But you have to have a plan. You say, okay, this is what I want. Then you have to work backwards and map it out. It's like, okay, how long am I going to give there? What do I have to do on a monthly, weekly, daily basis to get there? And part of focusing is improving a little bit each day. So you get a little bit more money than the day before. You make one less mistake, or you tick off all the boxes. You're perfect on your trading plan. When I used to work out, I had one of those. It was basically a grid. Had 1 to 31 across the top, and then it had all the exercises. Push ups, pull ups, and I would either sometimes I put the number down um, on some of the charts, or sometimes I just put either a black X or a red X. And if I got a red X, that means I didn't do exercise that day, and then I have to write the reason. Sometimes I was traveling, or maybe I was ill, or maybe something came up and I just had to leave. But I'll tell you, Once you see a string of black X's, and I probably talked about this years ago, you don't want to break the string. I mean, it'd be like, okay, it's almost bedtime, but I haven't exercised today. You know what? I don't want to break that string. I'm going to go and, put the gym clothes on, or, hit the solar flex, or, do some push ups or jump rope, whatever. I'm not going to have a black X on that day or a red X on that day. I'm going to have, I'm not going to break the string. Um, and some people call it the Seinfeld method, because I think he did something very similar, but he got it from somebody else. But since he kind of popularized it, his name got attached to it. Where in his case, it just worked on his jokes every day, making them better and better. And sometimes he says a joke might take a year. When you think about it, it's like, wow, spend a year on a joke that might take a couple minutes to tell. But that's just the level of focus that he had. So with trading, do you have that level of focus where you pick your method and you work on it, as opposed to, oh, you hit you had a couple of days in a row where you lost, now you're going to throw it out and go on to something new. And if you look back over your trading history, if you see that pattern, and if you're not successful, well, that might be a clue. It could be as simple as saying, you know what, I'm going to stay in the trade after the indicator 2 changes color. I'm going to get in that trade, and I'm going to stay in it. If I'm up profitably, I'm going to stay in it until it changes color. So you can see here, um, this was at 0 just a split second ago. It ran up from, it turned the right here, it turned green here, it's blue here, or aqua. But when it ran up and made this 0, I know a lot of times if all these are red, when it gets to 0, it's going to reverse. So maybe, to me, that would have been a point to exit, because M1 was going up, but M5 turned, hit 0 and then turned red again. Or you could, once again, just simple, I'm staying in this trade until it changes color. So right here, you'd be up about 4 pips. Then again, you can also look left and go, you know what, right here, this looks like a point where it might want to reverse. This little area here, just like this area here, just like this area here. Resistance becomes support, support becomes resistance, one of those old sayings. But you can see just something as simple as a change in color. And you were coming off a new daily low. So it's like, we know price likes to make new lows in reverse, and price likes to make new highs in reverse. It does it every day without fail, unless the market's closed. So that's something, focus. So depending on what you're trading, if you're trading, juggling a bunch of different pairs, maybe you should focus on one pair if you're not successful. If you've got a whole bunch of indicators on your chart, many of them are just, confirming ones, pick the one. You only need one oscillator, you only need one trigger, and just focus on that. Because, fellow traders, as always, it's not what you trade, it's how you trade it. So go out there and drain the banks. This is the Rumpled One, over and out.